The night Stephanie McMahon was taken away in handcuffs may have been part of the script, but with new lawsuits stacking up against Vince McMahon, fans are now wondering if Stephanie could be next as her name gets pulled into the chaos and real legal questions start to grow louder. So let's break down what actually happened that night that shook the WWE Universe when, on July 21, 2014, viewers watched one of the most powerful figures in wrestling entertainment escorted out of the arena by police after she confronted Brie Bella, who was sitting in the crowd as a fan after quitting the company in a storyline, and Stephanie began to mock Brie about leaving WWE, saying she abandoned Nikki and made a bad career choice by supporting her husband Daniel Bryan. But when Brie stood up to her and refused to leave even as security tried to remove her at Stephanie's command, she reminded everyone of their earlier fight where she had slapped Stephanie, a moment that became key to everything. That followed and showed WWE's focus on long-term storytelling, and then things shocked the audience when Brie revealed she wasn't there just to watch but had already contacted the authorities about Stephanie's earlier attack on her, leading officers to walk to ringside and tell Stephanie she was being arrested for battery, turning the entire show upside down as the storyline took a dramatic new direction. As she was escorted out, the entire crowd exploded into Daniel Bryan's signature, "Yes" chant, showing how thrilled they were to see the villain finally face what many believed she had coming, and this arrest moment quickly became one of WWE's strongest examples of creating gripping television as the company pushed the storyline onto social media and its website, reporting that Stephanie had been released from jail and was an emotional mess with charges of battery and resisting arrest mentioned, even though no real court proceedings or sentencing ever took place, and backstage. Details later revealed even more when former WWE writer Kevin Eck shared that there were original plans to show a mugshot of Stephanie as part of the story, but those were dropped after Triple H pushed back, saying it could hurt her real-life career, showing the delicate balance WWE has to maintain between dramatic entertainment and protecting the real reputations of its performer executives. And what truly made the segment shine was Stephanie McMahon's acting, because throughout her career she has shown an impressive ability to play an on-screen villain, a role many struggle with, but she consistently embraced and elevated, even admitting in a 2025 interview with Pat McAfee that she personally enjoys portraying the antagonist.
Love being a heel. Yeah. But thank you. Yes, I hate being a babyface. It's the worst.
Yeah,
the worst.
Love being a heel.
Prefer to be booed. Yeah.
Her clear understanding of her own on-screen strengths allowed Stephanie to fully lean into the more ruthless traits of her character, which made moments like her arrest even more satisfying for viewers, and her ability to show real outrage, entitlement, and disbelief throughout that scene highlighted just how skilled she was as a performer. But while her 2014 arrest was entirely scripted, a decade later the McMahon dynasty would face a real crisis as Vince McMahon became the center of multiple lawsuits and investigations that reshaped WWE's entire corporate structure and eventually pushed Stephanie to resign as co-CEO, creating a deep divide in wrestling's most influential family as the problems first surfaced in April 2022 when the Wall Street Journal revealed that WWE's board was investigating a secret $3 million settlement Vince McMahon allegedly paid to a former employee he reportedly had an affair with, and this report quickly expanded into claims of multiple payments totaling $12 million over 20 years to silence accusations of misconduct, forcing Vince to retire in July 2022 as chairman and CEO in a move that stunned the industry, leading Stephanie, who had taken a leave of absence months earlier, to return as chairwoman and co-CEO alongside Nick Khan, while her husband Paul Triple H Levesque took over creative control, guiding WWE through 6 turbulent months as Stephanie publicly emphasized improving corporate culture. But everything shifted again in January 2023 when Vince used his power as majority shareholder to force his way back onto the board, and only days later on January 10, 2023, Stephanie announced a resignation, ending her brief but historic run as co-CEO and chairwoman. While Stephanie's official statement presented her exit as a personal decision, behind-the-scenes reports told a very different story as respected wrestling journalist Dave Meltzer stated that Stephanie was on the verge of being demoted after Vince returned, and since she didn't need the job financially, she simply chose to walk away instead, while Bleacher Report noted that she looked discouraged and frustrated by the board changes Vince made, highlighting the growing tension between father and daughter. But Vince's comeback wouldn't last long because in January 2024 a shocking lawsuit was filed by former WWE employee Janelle Grant accusing Vince McMahon, WWE, and former executive John Laurinaitis of sex trafficking and sexual assault, laying out disturbing details including claims that Vince shared explicit photos and videos of her and pressured her into sexual acts with multiple partners, and the lawsuit also referenced other WWE executives, with Stephanie labeled as Corporate Officer Number 3, who was allegedly aware of other incidents involving Vince, though she was not named as a defendant. And this lawsuit marked a major escalation from the earlier hush money reports by introducing full criminal accusations of sex trafficking. causing WWE, now part of TKO Group Holdings after its 2023 merger with UFC, to distance itself as Vince resigned from TKO's board, while the company stated that these allegations were far more serious than anything previously known and that Vince denied them, and fallout continued as Netflix, which had recently secured the rights to air Raw beginning in 2025, reportedly scrapped its planned Vince McMahon documentary after investing heavily into it once the severity of the accusations became undeniable. Vince McMahon's legal troubles escalated further in October 2024 when 5 former WWE ring boys filed a lawsuit accusing him of knowingly enabling the sexual exploitation of minors by former WWE employee Melvin Phillips Jr. during the 1980s, with the suit naming Vince McMahon, Linda McMahon, WWE, and TKO Group Holdings as defendants and alleging that Vince and Linda were aware of Phillips's inappropriate behavior but continued to employ him, allowing the abuse to continue under the Protection of Maryland's Child Victims Act of 2023, which removes the statute of limitations for child sex abuse cases, and by April 2025 the lawsuit had grown as 3 more plaintiffs joined and new allegations were added against Phillips and Pat Patterson while, at the same time, Vince faced a federal investigation after receiving a grand jury subpoena in mid-2024 as prosecutors in the Southern District of New York examined whether he attempted to cover up misconduct, leading the Justice Department to temporarily pause the Janelle Grant lawsuit to avoid interfering with the criminal probe until February 2025, when Vince's attorney announced that prosecutors had closed their investigation without filing charges, offering him some relief even as all civil lawsuits continue to move forward. In January 2025, Vince McMahon's problems deepened when the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission announced that he would pay a $400,000 fine and reimburse WWE $1.3 million for failing to disclose settlement agreements tied to sexual misconduct allegations, as the SEC revealed that McMahon had authorized $14.6 million in settlements that should have been recorded as WWE expenses but were never properly reported, misleading investors, and as these legal battles continued, another front opened in May 2025 when shareholders filed a motion in the Delaware Court of Chancery to force McMahon to respond to discovery requests in a lawsuit connected to the WWE-UFC merger, accusing him of manipulating the sale process to maintain his power and claiming WWE's internal investigation into his hush money payments was a sham, and the combined weight of these scandals severely damaged Vince's public image and his standing within the very company he created, leaving him by 2025 with no formal role in daily operations or creative decisions despite having forced his way back in 2023, while Stephanie McMahon kept her distance throughout the turmoil by staying out of the spotlight after her January 2023 resignation and appearing only at select WWE events without commenting on the accusations, and as more of Vince's alleged misconduct came to light, Stephanie's sudden departure looked less like a simple family power struggle and more like a deliberate move to separate herself from the storm she likely saw coming. But that was not the end for her, because in WWE nothing is ever truly forever, and as fans tried to wrap their heads around the shocking news of Stephanie McMahon's January 2025 return, industry insiders saw it as a brilliantly crafted career comeback that almost no one would have predicted just 2 years earlier, turning what once looked like a forced exit in January 2023 into a calculated reset that allowed her to step away from her father's scandals while quietly setting herself up as the potential protector of the McMahon legacy. And as 2025 began, fans and analysts were caught off guard by reports that Stephanie would indeed return to WWE, but in a completely different role when, according to the Times of India, on January 30th, 2025, she began leading an untitled documentary-style TV series exploring wrestling history with stars like Cody Rhodes and Stone Cold Steve Austin, marking her first professional involvement with WWE since her resignation, and during her appearance on Pat McAfee's show she confirmed the project would be titled Stephanie's Places, created in partnership with Omaha Productions and ESPN as part of the Peyton Places franchise, explaining her vision for the series and the new direction she hoped to bring to wrestling storytelling.
In March, ESPN original Stephanie's Places. You know the history of this business through and through. What is the goal of Stephanie's Places?
It's really to tell the stories that haven't been told and to find out more about the people behind the characters.
She further elaborated on her approach, saying the show would explore what made WWE superstars successful despite challenges.
And what I want to do is bring, some type of advice to the audience. Like, these people are all hugely successful, but like most people, they've been knocked around a lot. So how did they overcome the challenges that were put in front of them? How did they get over certain things to become who they are today? And it's really their journey. That's what I'm trying to tell is the story of their story, their journey.
She further explained her approach by saying the show would dig into what truly made WWE superstars successful despite the challenges they faced, focusing on the experiences, sacrifices, and defining moments that shaped their careers.
So one of the things that I learned when I stepped away is that I'll never get away from WWE, ever. It is a part of who I am. It is what I love. You know, I really did grow up in this business.
This return to WWE, albeit in a documentary role rather than an executive position, represented a significant shift from the finality implied by her 2023 resignation. It suggested that while Stephanie may have needed time away from the corporate pressures of WWE, her connection to the wrestling business remained strong, perhaps too strong to sever completely. The nature of her return was particularly notable. Rather than stepping back into a corporate role or resuming her on-screen character, Stephanie chose to explore the history and human stories behind WWE. This approach allowed her to maintain a connection to the company while keeping a degree of separation from its day-to-day operations and the potential family tensions that had reportedly contributed to her departure. During her interview with McAfee, Stephanie made a revealing statement about her relationship with WWE.
I never stopped being proud, ever. I do think I wanted to disappear for a little while, and I kind of did, you know, and it was good for me. I needed it, and now I'm back.
Throughout her interview with McAfee, Stephanie shared insights into her mindset during her time away from WWE, and when asked whether she had wanted to step away from the business entirely, she gave a thoughtful and nuanced response that reflected both her need for distance and her enduring connection to wrestling. The dynamic between Stephanie and her father Vince seemed to shift during this period, as reports of tension around her 2023 resignation gave way to Vince facing serious legal challenges of his own, beginning in January 2024 when former WWE employee Janelle Grant filed a lawsuit accusing Vince of sex trafficking and sexual assault with graphic allegations, including incidents allegedly at WWE headquarters, naming WWE and former executive John Laurinaitis as co-defendants and mentioning Stephanie as corporate officer number 3, suggesting she may have been aware of other instances of Vince's misconduct, though she was not named or accused of any direct wrongdoing. And as the Grant lawsuit unfolded, Vince faced even more legal pressure in October 2024 when a new suit was filed on behalf of 5 former WWE ring boys alleging he knowingly enabled the sexual exploitation of children by a WWE employee in the 1980s, naming Vince, Linda McMahon, WWE, and TKO Group Holdings as defendants. And while federal prosecutors closed a criminal probe into Vince in February 2025 without filing charges, multiple civil lawsuits, including the Grant case and the Ring Boy lawsuit, continued to move forward. As of May 2025, these legal battles were still ongoing, with disputes over whether the Grant case should move to discovery or arbitration and additional plaintiffs joining the Ring Boy lawsuit. And these challenges had drastically changed Vince McMahon's relationship with WWE, as he had returned as executive chairman in January 2023, prompting Stephanie's resignation. But by 2025, he had stepped back amid mounting allegations, creating space for Stephanie's return in a different capacity than her previous executive role. And the timing of her comeback, coinciding with this upheaval, suggested that shifting family and corporate dynamics may have influenced her decision. While she made no public statements directly addressing Vince's legal troubles, the continued success of WWE under Triple H's creative leadership, with Paul Levesque firmly established and praised for his booking, combined with the stability brought by the TKO merger, likely made conditions more favorable for her return. And during her interview with McAfee, Stephanie showed diplomatic tact when discussing her current relationship with WWE, repeatedly referring to it as "our company," before catching herself.
You know, he's working so hard, but it's something he actually just talked about at the town hall to all of our employees. I say our, I know it's not our anymore, but to the WWE employees.
McAfee's immediate response, "You shouldn't," along with affirmations from others on the show, signaled support for Stephanie maintaining her connection to WWE despite her formal departure, and throughout the interview, she highlighted the familial nature of the company, emphasizing not only the McMahon dynasty but also the extended WWE family of performers, production staff, and longtime employees.
You're talking about camera people that have been there for like 30 years.
Yes.
You're talking about Nikki and his crew, the production crew's been there for like 25 years. The guy who threw Steve Beers during the Attitude Era is still there right now doing it. It's like everybody is at the top of their profession.
That's right.
And they won't leave.
When asked about her father's legal troubles while promoting Stephanie's places, Stephanie reportedly kept a professional distance, neither defending nor criticizing Vince McMahon, allowing her to focus on current projects without being drawn into ongoing controversies. And her documentary also reflected a strategic choice. concentrating on WWE's history rather than its present operations so she could highlight the company's positive legacy while avoiding recent controversies, enabling her to reconnect with the aspects of WWE she cared about most while keeping appropriate distance from potentially problematic issues. And when asked about her future in wrestling, Stephanie remained open-minded, noting that international expansion continues to be a key focus for the company.
So international is a big focus, but again, I'm not an executive at the company right now, so just,
Right now? Might be getting back in.
I don't mean anything by that. I just mean I'm, speaking on my own here.
Absolutely.
But international is absolutely a huge focus.
Stephanie elaborated on her vision for WWE's international expansion, showing that even after formally stepping away, she remained engaged with the company's strategic direction, while in contrast, her father's situation continued to worsen through 2024 and early 2025 as the Janelle Grant lawsuit remained active in April 2025 with disputes over discovery versus arbitration, and was further complicated when Grant amended her complaint in January 2025 to add new allegations and name former WWE superstar Brock Lesnar, and the Ring Boy lawsuit also expanded that April with 3 additional plaintiffs alleging that Vince and WWE had enabled sexual exploitation in the 1980s while WWE and Vince filed motions to dismiss, creating a sharp contrast between Vince's increasingly isolated position and Stephanie's measured re-entry into the WWE orbit. And Vince's legal troubles extended beyond these cases, as in January 2025 the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission announced that he agreed to pay a $400,000 fine and reimburse WWE $1.3 million for failing to disclose settlement agreements related to sexual misconduct allegations, including a 2019 deal for $7.5 million and a 2022 deal, presumably with Grant, for $3 million. The SEC's actions further tarnished Vince McMahon's reputation and added context to the corporate turmoil surrounding Stephanie's 2023 resignation, while a third front of legal battles emerged with shareholder lawsuits related to the WWE-UFC merger, as on May 5, 2025. Shareholders filed a motion in the Delaware Court of Chancery to compel McMahon to respond to discovery requests amid claims he was resisting compliance, and these overlapping legal challenges effectively sidelined Vince from WWE operations, creating space for others, including Stephanie, to redefine their relationship with the company. With the contrast between Vince's mounting legal problems and Stephanie's measured, positive re-engagement forming a narrative of diverging paths within the McMahon family, as she positioned herself as a chronicler and celebrator of WWE's history and culture while he faced allegations threatening his legacy, allowing her to maintain her connection to the company they had both built yet distance herself from the controversies. And when discussing her documentary project, Stephanie highlighted the unique challenges of interviewing WWE personalities across different generations.
And it's interesting because with each person it's different. In some cases, like, I'm the younger person who remembers them as a big star and how do we do this? And then in other cases, I'm the older person and I'm trying to pull things out of a younger superstar. And it's no one show is the same. And it's just a lot of fun.
Stephanie's return to WWE came at a time when the company was receiving widespread praise under Triple H's creative leadership, with fans and critics noting improvements in storytelling, character development, and match quality, creating an ideal environment for her comeback. And as her husband guided the company creatively, Stephanie handled questions on controversial topics like WWE's Saudi Arabia partnership with restraint, choosing to focus on aspects of the company she could celebrate its history, performers, and cultural impact, while her Stephanie's Places project provided a perfect platform to honor WWE's legacy without engaging directly in current controversies by highlighting the personal journeys of superstars past and present, an approach reflecting her earlier emphasis on community impact as chief brand officer. And the contrast between her path and her father's remained stark as of May 2025, with Vince increasingly isolated amid multiple lawsuits while Stephanie maintained her connection to WWE on her own terms, showing that individual McMahon family members are writing distinct chapters rather than a single unified story. And as WWE evolves under TKO Group Holdings and expands globally through partnerships like its Netflix deal, Stephanie's return preserves a link to the company's past while adding a new chapter to her own story, one that is neither simply an ending nor a beginning, proving that in professional wrestling, as in life, few goodbyes are ever truly forever. And thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, click one of the boxes on your screen to watch more similar content.